Yo, what is up guys? This is Troy D from the Troy D 24/7 Mall channel, your source for on point and no hype reviews. We are back yet again, everybody. We're back with another fragrance review right here, guys, on my lovely day off. And as of right now, it is pretty cold out there still, guys. So I've got all these spring summer fragrances lined up. Of course, I ordered a bunch. I put it on my community tab. But as of right now, it is still cold. So today I will be talking about one of the latest Louis Vuitton fragrances that really there's a lot of mystery towards this fragrance. I'm going to clarify a lot of that. I cannot wait to give you guys my results on this testing. Now, before I continue, please do not forget to like and subscribe, guys, okay? Liking, subscribing, and watching the ads is a great big deal to this channel, especially that we are headed towards 21K. So please like and subscribe, watch my other videos. That's really all the support I need, guys. I've got a ton of Louis Vuitton fragrances on deck on my reviews, as well as other really mysterious fragrances that you might want to know about. Guys, check out the playlists. Thank you very much for your support. And the fragrance we will be talking about today is none other than Louis Vuitton Myriad. Yes, Louis Vuitton Myriad, guys. This fragrance right here is one of the latest fragrances to come out of the house. Came out last year, latter part of last year, and this is the latest one in terms of the Extrait collection, guys. Those same Louis Vuitton bottles with the fancy artistic caps, and I think this is an artistic collaboration with an artist. I don't know what his name is, but anyways, these fragrances, guys, are quite mysterious. I think that the extra added artistic cap actually intimidates people because the regular LV bottles are already expensive to begin with. These ones are much more expensive. So a lot of what they smell like is shrouded in mystery unless you're really going to the LV boutique or buying a sample. You really won't find out about these fragrances, guys. So here I am. I'm gonna give you guys the lowdown on Myriad. Now, the big thing about Myriad, guys, is that it seems like this was made for the Middle Eastern customer, or at least the customer that wants or likes Middle Eastern perfumes, because right here in this fragrance, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this fragrance is full of the classic tenets of Middle Eastern perfumery, specifically rose oud, guys, right? If you look at this fragrance on paper, it's got everything that you could possibly see in a rose oud. This one has oud Assam. This one has musk. This one has all sorts of roses in here, guys. Bulgarian rose, which is one of my favorites. And so it shouldn't be surprising what this fragrance would actually smell like. And the really interesting thing about this fragrance is that on Fragrantica, at least, where you'd see some reviews out there, mostly from the mainstream, you will find some really, really negative reviews on Myriad, okay? A lot of people are calling it a fragrance that smells like vomit or cat piss. And the thing is, guys, let's not forget that one of Louis Vuitton's fragrances that basically has all the tenets, something very similar on paper that has saffron and oud and musk, is the legendary Ombre Nomade, right? So Ombre Nomade is really funny that Ombre Nomade, which actually has a barnyard oud, is a lot more liked by the mainstream, accepted, liked, and loved. And by the way, that is a truly amazing fragrance. I have a link to that. I'll link that at the end of the video, guys. But this one, apparently, Myriad, well, they hate it, or at least the reviews on Fragrantica suggests that people or the mainstream did not like Myriad, guys, okay? Despite having very similar notes or a similar makeup or a standard Middle Eastern makeup to Ombre Nomade. And some people are now comparing this fragrance to The Night by Frederic Malle, which is also barnyard in nature. So, okay, I told myself I'm going to buy a sample of this. I'm going to wear the heck out of this during my days off. And today, I will give you guys the lowdown on Louis Vuitton Myriad. It's going to be interesting, guys. Let's go spray this thing right now. Ooh. Okay, guys, now let's talk about the latest Louis Vuitton Extrait fragrance. Again, this is Louis Vuitton Myriad, guys. Now, again, I gave you guys a bit of an intro. This is a fragrance that is a rose oud, a Middle Eastern rose oud. So really, this is not foreign to me. Matter of fact, I've smelled almost every strain and permutation of this rose oud combination that really, for me, reviewing this fragrance and testing it was more of like, okay, which strain or which version will pop out right here. Now, this fragrance right here is a core fragrance. And again, if you're familiar with my reviews, you know what I mean by core fragrance. This is basically my own definition of a fragrance that has a core combination that pretty much is strong all throughout the fragrance from start to finish. And usually these combinations are in the mid or on the base of this fragrance, but the actual smell radiates from the beginning, guys, the moment you spray the fragrance, guys. And with Louis Vuitton Myriad, guys, the core combination is basically your oud, assam, and musk. Okay, so it's oud, assam, and musk as the core combination of Louis Vuitton Myriad. It is strong, it is powerful, it is a combo that you will smell from start to finish. And that should tell you guys that this fragrance is really not for beginners. This is really not for the mainstream, because right from the get-go, you will get this gradient, this comforting, sensual gradient of oud assam, as well as some gradient musk. Now, right here, guys, on the oud, let me go over it real quickly. The oud right here will not be similar to Ombre Nomade or even the Night. Okay, nowhere near, because this oud here is more on the leathery side. Okay, so there is some slight funk. It is not a barnyard type of funk. Yes, a slight animalic funk coming from this oud assam, but it is mostly a leathery oud wood. And can you just imagine leather, oud wood, plus a gradient of musk, and then that is your combination right there. So Myriad, guys, oud-wise is really not going to be connected to the oud type of Ombre Nomade or even the Night, guys. But nevertheless, though, the moment you spray this, you're going to get this elegant nighttime feel in a Middle Eastern sense. This is not a new combination, guys, of leathery oud and musk. But once you spray this, if you love Middle Eastern fragrances, you're going to get that immediate, comforting, elegant gradient of this leathery oud musk combination. Now, on the top notes, you have saffron, basically. And saffron, guys, right here is actually quite minor. In other fragrances, saffron is pretty strong, and that's kind of like your run-of-the-mill Middle Eastern scent. That is pretty common, guys. But here, no. In the intro, the highlight is going to be the core of assam, oud, and musk. So this is, again, more of a highlight thing. You can look at a fragrance and say, oh, they look the same on paper. But no, it depends on what the perfumer wants to highlight here. So in the beginning, you are going to be treated by that oud musk combination. Again, leathery gradient musk with some saffron, a tinge of saffron, guys. And I think it is a nice variant of this type of intro right here. I think that this intro is going to be for oud lovers first and foremost, not necessarily mainstream Middle Eastern perfume collectors, guys. I mean, if you really want to smell that oud from the get-go, and it's going to be some high quality oud right here with the musk, you're going to get it right here with Myriad. Okay, now let's head into the mid of Myriad by Louis Vuitton, and the bridge note here is going to be your rose from grass. There are two types of rose in Myriad, guys. You've got Bulgarian rose and then rose from grass. This rose from grass is the uplifting one, actually, and there is a lemony smell coming out of this rose, guys. And it does make sense that this fragrance has this type of rose as the bridge note into the eventual gradient dry down, guys. So you're gonna get this like tart lemony rose, kind of cut through slightly through that musk oud gradient core, guys, and it just balances everything out. So that's the experience, guys. You get some saffron, you get the introduction of that oud assam, that comforting oud assam, leathery in a way with some musk, and then this type of rose cuts through as early as 15 minutes into this fragrance and goes up to an hour 30, guys. So this is again a lemony type rose. I mean, some people will say maybe fruity, but it's not enough. It just cuts through slightly into that oud and musk, giving you a balanced intro, kind of reminiscent of like most intros to Middle Eastern fragrances. Now, eventually, guys, 1 hour and 30 minutes in, we get the Bulgarian rose. Okay, now this Bulgarian rose to me is a spicy, sensual rose, and that really signals the turn into the gradient of this fragrance, going into a sunset, going into a fade to black via the Bulgarian rose that really gets stronger at the 1 hour 30 minute mark. Again, the bridge to that is your rose from Grasse, still kind of balanced, and then you got this spicy rose. And I also got to smell some green parts here, some green tinges right here with the Bulgarian rose, guys. Now, the interesting thing here with the Bulgarian rose is that it is accompanied by white musks, guys. And this clean white musk, this is basically a balancer here, guys. I could smell the balance here because you got the rose from Grasse as kind of the balancer, as the bridge to the mid. But here in the mid, going into the dry down, you have this dark, sensual, spicy Bulgarian rose, the green facets, as well as the clean white musks, kind of uplifting, does provide a balance in this. Now, as I went into the mid of Myriad, I was just like, oh my gosh, this one smells like one of my favorite rose oud fragrances. Matter of fact, I call it my favorite Boudicca, and that's none other than Carbon Sapphire. Yes, Carbon Sapphire. I own a full bottle of Carbon Sapphire. It is not a cheap fragrance. It is $1,000, guys. Okay, now Myriad does share very much a lot of similarities with Boudicca's Carbon Sapphire, primarily because just like Carbon Sapphire, that one goes straight into a musk gradient. This one, at least, does go into a musk gradient immediately, no barnyard, and then a dark, spicy rose, guys. And I mean, that is why I love Carbon Sapphire, because Carbon Sapphire has this kind of snobby feel to it. It's kind of like a snobby person's rose oud, you know, and I like that. It's pretty modern in a way in how it smells because of the musks. And this fragrance immediately reminded me of Carbon Sapphire. If there is a difference, I would say with Carbon Sapphire, I would say that Carbon Sapphire is a lot more thicker and intense, and this one still has some balancers, guys, like those clean white musks. Despite having a straight up gradient core, a leathery oud, which is much like Carbon Sapphire, super close, guys, I would still say the overall feel is very similar. Okay, now let's talk about the initial sillage and projection of this fragrance. I would say that this fragrance is slightly above an aura scent, but it is not beastly, which is, thank God that's the case, because this one really is inviting. I would say in the Middle East, this would be an amazing fragrance with that inviting nature, but then again, it has its own strength, guys. And again, my wife is kind of like my oud meter. She gets to smell these fragrances, and if it's barnyard, she'll be like, oh God, no, please. And I would say that this one went through her radar again. And again, she liked it. She complimented me about this fragrance, Myriad, guys. And again, this is because the funk here is not really that crazy. A matter of fact, if there's any funk here, it's really from the musk, and the oud itself is a leathery type of oud, guys. So it got through her oud meter. This is not going to be offensive whatsoever. And again, the sillage and projection is going to be powerful still with this fragrance right here. Okay, now let's head into the dry down of this fragrance, guys. The Bulgarian Rose actually lasts up to 9 hours, okay? So it's a long rose musk oud combination. And I know some people are talking about poor oud being in here, and I agree. It's because there's a lot of musk here. There's ambrette, there's musk, and so, you know, I can definitely see why people are putting in their thoughts that it kind of smells like a pour oud. I mean, this might be leftover juice from unsold pour oud, who knows? But I've always said, even on my pour oud review, that fragrance is kind of like a layering combination, that it should be layered with something else. Well, you know what? There's a little bit of that here. But again, you've got rose, you've got a low-lying saffron here. And of course, here, the interesting thing is that you have cacao. Yes, cacao in the dry down, guys. The cacao, guys, happens late. And it's an interesting twist. I mean, it's one of those that I was like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, it does smell like dry cacao powder. Not really chocolatey, but just like dry cacao powder. And it's a nice twist, but I mean, it really doesn't take away from the fact that this is going to be an oud, leathery oud and musk dry down. So that's, I mean, if you know your Middle Eastern perfumes, you're going to be like, okay, I expect this dry down. I expect this gradient, fade to black, sunset dry down. But then, okay, yep, there's some cacao. There's some random cacao that happens during the dry down cacao powder, which is nice. I wouldn't say it would tilt the dry down or the judgment of this fragrance, because at the end of the day, you've been smelling the core since the start of this fragrance, as I've said. So it's just like a nice modifier right here. But again, not really that significant if you know your oud. Okay, so here are my thoughts on Louis Vuitton Myriad. First and foremost, I think it is a winner. Okay, I think it is a winner. Primarily because it pretty much smells like Carbon Sapphire from Boudicca the Victorious, guys. And they are both expensive. This one here is $600 something. I mean, that's with tax. But Boudicca's Carbon Sapphire was well over $1,000, guys. So in terms of pricing, you get a better deal here, guys. There are some slight differences, but they're not that different in terms of the overall scent. These two are so similar. And I know this because Carbon Sapphire is my favorite Boudicca. So if you want something that is priced less, then maybe you want to go with Myriad, guys. But definitely, guys, this is for the oud lover. I think that this is geared towards the Middle East and not for the mainstream. This is not even for beginners. Not even for beginners that maybe got their start with Arabian oud like I did. But then Arabian oud and other Middle Eastern scents that are kind of like that, they're very much compromising. You know, they compromise by giving you a lot of mainstream lovable parts. But then this type of oud, in my opinion, really brings out the Middle East, the sensuality, the richness of the Middle East, I think is brought out by Myriad, much like Carbon Sapphire. And it took me a bunch of rose ouds before I got to like Carbon Sapphire. Even from Boudicca, I went through Nemer and Dasman and Almaz before I got to there. So again, this is not for beginners. This is definitely not for the mainstream. This is for an oud lover. But the beautiful thing I'll say is that it is a unique strain and it is not going to be your barnyard type. A little bit different from those rose ouds out there. And also, with that being said, this is one of those few Louis Vuitton fragrances that smell like it's priced, okay? Because we all know Louis Vuitton fragrances, as nice as they are, guys, I mean, if I put it in a cheaper bottle, I really wouldn't know that it would be like a $500 perfume. A lot of it really is you guys buying the name and maybe the concept and maybe the signature type of smell that LV has on their fragrances. But definitely a lot of their concoctions that are pretty simple are not worth $500. With this fragrance Myriad, it does feel like you bought a $500 or $600 perfume because, like I said, this is really some rich Oud Assam musk combination. The rose is of high quality. I mean, I really think they didn't waste anything here. Again, maybe they used up some old poor oud juice here for the oud musk combination, but definitely this one is worth the price. And of course, with that additional cap, it looks even more regal, having a special artist Extrait Louis Vuitton release for you guys in your collection. Also guys, this fragrance is a fall winter fragrance. Again, of course, in the Middle East, none of that matters. But for me, spraying it here in the rainy weather of LA, guys, it was very comforting and nice. I didn't offend anybody wearing this fragrance, or at least they didn't show it, because of the type of oud musk combination here and the rose as well. So definitely an inoffensive bridge into Middle Eastern perfumes, guys. Not for beginners though, but great for fall winter. And this fragrance is also unisex, okay? In my opinion, both ends of the spectrum and anybody in between will like this fragrance, guys. But again, if you are a fan of Carbon Sapphire and you like the way that it's kind of like a snobby rose oud, that's the best way I can put it, kind of modern and snobby rich guy type of rose oud. Not like one of those rose ouds where you come in and you're like, hey everybody, smell this barnyardy rose oud. Nothing like that at all. You're snobby, you're modern, you wear shades and maybe Balenciaga and drive a Lambo. This is that type of rose oud with Myriad. Okay guys, now let's go into the total performance of Myriad. This fragrance lasted past 15 hours. Okay, I gave up. I took a shower. But it was pretty long lasting, of course, with that oud musk core being out there. And this fragrance turned into, I would say, like a lingering scent, oud lingering draw-in scent by hour 10 or 11. But definitely, guys, you can smell that combination up until past 15. So it is a long-lasting oud scent. Again, for me, worth the cost and definitely way cheaper than Carbon Sapphire, should you, want an alternative to that $1,000 perfume, okay? To me, this is an oud lover's delight or a Middle Eastern perfume collector's delight. Again, not for beginners. I've said that a million times here, guys. And that is it. That is my no hype review on Louis Vuitton Myriad. I'm really glad I tried this. These rose ouds, unfortunately, are a dime a dozen, and a lot of people already own these types of fragrances. However, guys, every now and then, when they do release something new like this, I do get interested because I want to know if there's anything new. Did they reinvent the wheel, or are they just, bringing in the same thing all over again, maybe testing the market and seeing how they react to these types of releases? But for me, guys, I'm glad I tested this, because despite all the crazy bad reviews that I saw in Fragrantica, at the end of the day, this is your Louis Vuitton Carbon Sapphire, and I really, really loved Carbon Sapphire, guys. Okay, $1,000 perfume. This one's much cheaper and has the LV brand on it. So that is it. That is my no hype review. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you've tried this fragrance, I would love to know your thoughts on your trials of this fragrance. There are no right or wrong answers. And if you are a beginner or, a total mainstream guy, that's fine. Talk shit about this fragrance. I don't really care. I would love to see it on the comments below. And again, please do not forget to like and subscribe. I've got a ton of Louis Vuitton fragrances, mainstream ones, for those that want the mainstream stuff. They're all on the playlists on the channel, guys. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. God bless. Take care. Peace.